So, okay, big panel and not much time, so I will shoot questions quite quickly. And let's start with someone who we all know, Madis LHV. The share price has not been that great since beginning of 2003, and I believe it's been sideways or even down a bit. Why do you think that is, and what could change this?
Right to the point, share price. To be honest, I thought that I make some fun and I'm for you guys and ready to go to jail and say something about stock price and whether it's cheap or not. But I can be more clever now because Investor Toomase already bought the stock and said it's cheap, so it's kind of like easy to agree. But yeah, jokes aside, then over the past 8 years, we really haven't had any comment on the stock price because it's kind of like not being professional and insider information and so on. But I will do a slight exception today. So it's kind of like stock price isn't like a function of its own. It's like a company valuation. And we have strong belief that it will correlate with business growth, with profitability. And it is really true regarding long-term and medium-term, but not always the case in the short term. And we'll see it now happening and playing out regarding LHV. So yeah, over the last couple of years, it's been quite flat. And as we have 40,000 retail investors, we kind of like feel the, perhaps it's not pain, but we feel the pain. So when you are a small investor, you are looking for return in your like investment account as well. So we actually understand that. So first of all, we will, let's say, deal with the issue in 2025, but it still starts from the fact that you have to grow the business, you have to have good profitability. And in our case, it's not so well-known fact that we still waiting that LHV Bank in UK will grow 5 times faster than it was the case for Estonian Bank in 2009 when we established it over the first 5 years. So the growth rate is 5 times faster. But having said that, it's still kind of like, okay, it's a good story, but the stock price is still there. So once again, we will deal with it in 2025. We don't have any news to be published today, but let's say that we are in the middle of discussions. But once again, all the ratios are in the cheapest on the cheapest level in history. And come on, guys, it's like trading at the moment below US regional banks. Having a return on equity 20% and good growth rates, usually it means that it should be somewhere at price to book 2, from 2 to 2.5. Now it's the 1.7 and price to earning ratio is 7. So come on, it's an opportunity.
I guess most people in here are actually owners, and that brings me to, if you look at your investor base, it's very much Estonian. Will you start to market your story to foreigners, maybe have the earnings call in English, maybe do road shows in London and so on?
It's kind of like a chicken and egg question because like, yeah, you are like getting attention or like wanting to get attention of 1 or 2 or 3 potential institutional investors. Those guys here, 40,000 speaking Estonian. So it's kind of like a historical background there, but you really have the point there that I guess like most of Estonians already are like shareholders, but customers or shareholders of LHV. So it's kind of like a liquidity play, and we don't have liquidity in Estonian market, in Baltic market, so everyone already has a LHV stock. So kind of like we need institutional investors. The problem here is that it's called frontier market in developed economy in Baltic states, but it's not even like developed market, it's frontier market, so it's kind of limiting the institutional play here. But we definitely have done the roadshows, and that's why we actually established a UK bank. It came from US investors like 5 or 6 years ago when you worked that someone was asking only about Estonian business, someone was asking only about UK business, and we had like them in a united way, so we like separated those. So we actually get the feedback and agree with it, but yeah, attracting institutional player like when we had share price with price to book ratio 4, I knew it was impossible, so it's kind of like talking, but yeah. But now it's a different story. UK is separated, all the ratios have gone down, return is still there, and once again, LHV return on equity is one of the best in Europe. The cost efficiency is one of the best in Europe. The credit losses are one of the best in Europe. And definitely the growth rate is one of the best in Europe. So under European Central Bank, I would say this is the best bank ever. So it's kind of, again, you kind of have the story. So, and now UK as well. So we will do that. And the switching to English is kind of like tactical solutions. And I would say that we probably make it happen in 2025, but it's kind of a chicken and egg question. If there is no one listening, then it doesn't matter. Now, perhaps there is.
I would be listening, but yeah, I think there is interest. I think
you don't speak any Estonian?
Natuke, hästi.
You understand profit, so it's kasu.
Yeah. That's good. I think, I think it would contribute, and I think also that we have the Lithuanian bank presenting later on, and they of course think that they are the best Lithuanian bank, and they have started to market the story quite aggressively, I would say, in London and
I think that Europe. They are the best Lithuanian bank because there are a few Swedish one and one US bank and some smaller Lithuanian banks, so I totally agree.
True. So speaking of marketing, Aine, Ignitis, you are one of the few, I think, Baltic companies who do regular road shows internationally. And just wanted to ask you, what do you hear from London investors, for example, when you market the Baltics and Ignitis?
So we do actually do the non-deal roadshows, how it's called, almost every after result announcements. We meet investors from London, US, Western Europe, CE region, and Scandinavia. And we do hear the Baltic companies' names like LHV from them, Enefit Green, Šiaulių Bankas. So the interest is there. But there is still a challenge because we do not have like quality long-term investors, institutional investors in the Baltic states. And this is a complex challenge. And let me just a bit elaborate in two parts of that. So the first one, imagine that there is an investor who knows that we are frontier market and they know the region. So for those investors, the main concern is liquidity, because just to imagine to build a substantial position, it might take a year. So liquidity is their concern. The second part is investors who do not know the region. So you need to sell them the region itself on top of market frontier classification and also liquidity issues we are facing in the Baltic states. So, and still, if you are lucky enough to sell the region, to sell the equity story, it might concerns may be raised by the investment committees on the balance between how many there are large issuers in the Baltics versus the extra effort they need to make to enter our market.
Mm-hmm. So liquidity was also...
Liquidity and I would say frontier market.
Right, great. Then maybe I could show this picture because you both talk about liquidity. I don't know if you can put that on the screen, a slide that I have on liquidity. right there, because I looked a bit, because I kind of felt that liquidity would be a topic. And if we look at Scandinavian companies and Baltic companies with roughly the same market cap that we have here on the panel, 200 to 2 billion USD, the lower end here is the market cap, and the other is the daily average liquidity in USD. And as you can see, even though the Baltic companies have quite okay market cap compared, to other stock markets, the liquidity is at the bottom. And I hear too, and you can comment on that, that foreign fund managers, they want 1 million daily liquidity. And that's the red line you see there. So no, really, not one Baltic company reaches that. So that's just to give you a feel of when they say liquidity, I think this is what they mean. And Maris, you are representing Latvia and also a company that's recently IPO'd. I wanted to ask you, when you did the IPO roadshow, you met a lot of professional investors. You're still probably trying to sell the story. I mean, what did they tell you, and what do they say now when they meet you?
Yeah, sure. So actually, Eleving Group was one of the few IPOs that was actually successful or even tried last year. And we started the process IPO journey at the beginning of 2024. And I think it's important to kind of illustrate the backdrop at that point in time. So let's say, essentially, we were swimming against the current, and we had several headwinds. So first of all, that's geopolitical risk, since we were marketing our IPO not only in Baltics, but also outside of Baltics. So we spoke, same as Ignitis, to investors from UK, US investors with offshore funds, investable funds in Europe. So for all of them, basically geopolitical risks, although we here in Baltics were already kind of used to the situation that's out there, for many investors it's a binary topic. So is it or it's not there? So they're not looking at the scale or possibilities. Let's say the war situation is possible, it's a no-go for them. The second one, at the beginning of 2024, it was still elevated interest rate environment. So what it meant for us was that, as we spoke to many professional investors, for them it was basically the opportunity to invest and get, let's say, 5, 6, 7% virtually risk-free return versus doing the extra work and possibly kind of looking for investment opportunities that would yield, let's say, 10+% annual return. So again, it was really tough to kind of move the professional investors who have these fungible funds that they can invest one day in S&P 500, next day in treasuries, and they move the cash around. And third headwind was actually kind of, as we call it, cherry on the top, because there was actually an Estonian company with a similar business, not the same business, similar business as we have, also operating in Africa, that defaulted on their unsecured liabilities. And I think many investors here know the company's name. So we had to kind of also explain that. So we not only had to explain our business story, but basically also how we are different to that company. To be honest, it wasn't that hard, so the differences are quite obvious, but nevertheless it was, let's say, annoying to see that the investors struggle with that topic. So in this whole context, it's actually not hard to see how really the smart money professional investors funds, they actually chose to basically remain on sidelines. But at the same time, what we saw that retail investors, as well as different niche investors, such as high net worth individuals, boutique funds, family offices, they actually came in strongly and they supported our story, our IPO. And I think for them, for many of those investors, the really kind of the green light was the fact that they had this already really successful experience with investments in our debt securities. So we've been in debt capital markets since 2014. And we have investors who have already doubled their money just by investing in our bonds. So it was an opportunity for them to invest in a different tier of capital, in this instance in shares. So that's kind of the investment landscape that we encountered, and that's our take on that.
Okay, great. And Baiba, you represent the only unlisted company on the panel. When will we see the IPO coming? And first of all, maybe you can just quickly say, what do you do and why should we participate in an IPO of Storent?
Yes, of course. I hope you all saw our equipment unit in the front of building when you enter. So we rent equipment, mostly construction rental equipment, but actually we serve much wider industries like entertainment industry, agriculture, military, production. And as an example, earlier this week, our generators were helping to blow snow in one of the skiing slopes in Latvia. So we are wide range products. And our capital comes from Latvia, and we work in 5 countries, 3 Baltic countries, Finland and Sweden. And how do we differ from other rental companies? That we like technology, we like to invest also in IT technologies and be like a game changer in the industry. So we are top 3 position in the Baltic place. 2 other players are from Nordic countries, so sometimes it's very challenging to compete with the Nordic players, where they have much cheaper money, because our industry is very capital intense, so we need to have a lot of money to buy expensive equipment, and income comes slowly. So that's why we are here in the Baltic market with our bonds, because we want to grow. We have ambitious to grow, and unfortunately the banks are too conservative. 40% of our financing comes from the banks, but other let's say almost 2/3 comes from the bond money, which is more expensive for the company, but on the other hand, it gives more opportunities and possibility to grow. So about the IPO, so that's definitely one lifetime happening for the company, and it's very important to find this right timing. Our company is 17 years old, so we have had our ups and downs. So we learned our lessons, and right now our focus is to grow in the Nordic countries.
And when is it planned?
Yeah, that's a good question. Definitely not this year, but next year or after next year. Actually, we have like a big dream and big business goal at the same time. So actually, in the best scenario, we would like to have double listing in Stockholm and in Baltic. So,
okay.
So we are working on that very hard.
then we know. Thanks. Okay, back to Madis, and actually I will ask this question from all of you. It's always interesting to hear what stocks are in your portfolio, and maybe pick like the best one that you like the most for 2025, apart from your own company, of course. Then.
Yeah, it's like capital at risk when you're investing. But yeah, it's like personal investments. I have few. But when I do it, it's like not so big of a fan of diversification, although I suggest that every small investor would do it. But in my own personal portfolio, it's at the moment over the 18 months, it's like investing quite substantial amounts regularly to US real estate investment trust. So it's kind of like 5 to 7 years macro play. Interest rates going down, and even if they are not going down so quickly, then the overall trend is still good. So it's kind of like already good returns, and they are cash flow heavy as well. So at some point they were falling, the stock prices in the market, they were falling like from 50 to 70%. And all the tenants were still there, and rental agreements were still there. So it's kind of this, and I don't know, as a banker, perhaps not too polite to say, but I have quite a lot of crypto as well. So
that's great. Aine, how about you?
Of course, I do have Ignitis Group share, definitely. But there are also a few other companies, Baltic companies, that are in my portfolio. So there are Baltic Classifieds Group, Onkele Group, also invested in a few indices, and perhaps more interesting investments so far I have made. I bought a few high-end jewelry items as well as photographs. So it's quite interesting and different process at all.
Okay. Maris?
Yeah, okay. So I know you kind of disqualified me answering in a sense mentioning our Eleving Group shares, but I think it's still worth and important for investors to know this. So let's say majority of my, let's call it net worth, is still tied in Eleving Group shares. So I think that's important to understand that, let's say, mine and also management's interests are perfectly aligned with the shareholders' interest in that regard. But apart from that, I I really much enjoy investing in high-yield debt. Those are usually Baltic issuers, Baltic companies, both public, private. And then also I've taken some exposure towards Baltic stocks, other Baltic stocks as well, but indirectly through different funds. But to answer the second part of your question about most fun definitely I have with crypto investments and leveraged instruments and stuff like that. That provides this extraordinary opportunity to enjoy yourself and also make some money.
Okay.
And lose money.
Yeah, I was going to say, don't forget about
Not in my case.
That Marco was talking about. Baiba, quickly.
Yeah, so I'm quite conservative in my investment. So I bought some 3 funds quite many years ago and just following how it grows or goes down. Then, of course, I have also the bonds. That's with quite good yield. And I also buy little shares of all Baltic IPOs. So just to see how I step in the investor's shoes and feel how these emotions and numbers color.
No crypto.
No.
Okay, great. One last question to Madis. I mean, the Estonian economy has not been the best lately, and you see a lot of the Estonian business and retail action. What do you think? Is this the year, or will macroeconomists be wrong once again? We won't see a turnaround in the second half. What do you feel?
This year, nope. But I'm probably one of the most positive ones, and I have actually written about it as well, about 2027, or it's like, I'm not giving the year, but it was like after a couple of years, 3 years, and I believe that there is a turning point where all comes together, but in 2025 it will not happen.
Okay, thanks. Do we have any questions from the audience, perhaps?
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Applause. We can have one question from the audience. If you can see raise your, there's one. Meanwhile, I will say that we have good news and bad news. Bad news, obviously, is that our time is always limited. But we are thinking of doing some Guinness record, maybe in festival, to do it like a non-stop 42 hours of panels and everything. So we'll see. But good news is that I hope all of you will stay here longer. So if your shareholders, bondholders want to dig deeper, find their expos, ask the questions, and we will beg you to stay longer. So the evening is still long. But the question.
Yeah, as we're talking about the growth in Baltic Stock Exchange, we know that we have problems in Latvia and Lithuania because we don't have a lot of investors there, or you don't have a lot of investors there. So will there be actually any growth before we get more investors in Latvia and Lithuania on board to invest more? And of course, what are you doing to make sure that more investors are interested in your own stock market?
I guess question for me. So basically, it's a chicken and egg problem, because as we are classified as frontier market, it means that we miss a huge part of passive investments from those passive investors, and they are just not kicking in. So to change market classification, we are in a good position from economic criteria, but we need to have a few large issuers. So unless there are no more issuers, or unless there is coming to the market huge issuers, like maybe unicorns in the future, then the problem might exist. what we are doing from a company end. So we have been actually analyzed this over the last year. So what we could do, because we are suffering from that situation as well. So we started communicating with the investors and asking the questions, what are the constraints? Maybe there are constraints from technical side. Maybe there are too less custodians, international custodians. So currently we have those answers and just working with the stakeholders. But still the key message here that we need more listed companies and more large listed companies.
Thank you very much.